One of the longest-serving members of the Supreme Court about to step down, Justice Stephen Breyer's retirement paves the way for President Biden to make his mark on the high court. CBS reporter Skylar Henry is in Washington with a look at the liberal justice's legacy and what is next.
Hey, Juliet, good to see you. Well, one thing that is abundantly clear is that Democrats plan to move quickly in terms of a confirmation process when President Biden names a nominee to replace Justice Breyer on the Supreme Court. And we just learned this evening that the president plans to formally do so in terms of announcing Breyer's retirement tomorrow. Justice Stephen Breyer, the oldest member of the Supreme Court, will retire at the end of the court's current term. At 83 years old, the liberal justice had been under pressure to step down to give President Biden his first opportunity to pick a successor. The president says the timing was left to Breyer to decide.
Every justice has the right and opportunity to decide what he or she is going to do and announce it on their own. There has been no announcement from Justice Breyer. Let him make whatever statement he's going to make, and I'll be happy to talk about it later.
Appointed by President Bill Clinton in 1994, Breyer is the second longest serving of the current justices, just behind Clarence Thomas, who joined in 1991. The court's current term runs until the end of June. President Biden is expected to name his pick for Justice Breyer's replacement in the next few weeks. During his campaign, he pledged to nominate a black woman.
The president has stated and reiterated his commitment to nominating a black woman to the Supreme Court and certainly stands by that.
As a liberal justice, Breyer's ruling supported abortion rights, health care access, and LGBT causes. But in the court's current 6-3 conservative majority, he has often found himself in dissent. Timing allows the president to fill the vacancy while Democrats hold a slim majority in the Senate, a margin that could slip away after the midterm elections. Now, Senator Dianne Feinstein released remarks about Justice Breyer earlier today, saying that he will long be remembered for his key opinions and that he was an outstanding and well-respected justice and has been pivotal on votes on many key issues. We should also mention that there are a lot of questions about who the president will decide to nominate to fill Justice Breyer's seat, and will he live up to that campaign pledge of it being a black woman. We're here in Washington. I'm Skylar Henry, KPIX 5.
I'm Alan Martin. Justice Stephen Breyer has strong ties to the Bay Area. He was born in San Francisco in 1938. His father, a lawyer who worked with the city's Board of Education. And Breyer attended Lowell High School, studied philosophy at Stanford University. His younger brother, Charles, is a senior judge of the U.S. District Court in San Francisco.
And that's, of course, my object. I want to go through area after area and simply flag the kinds of truly difficult questions and what are my motives.
That is Justice Breyer giving the keynote address at an event at UC Berkeley back in 2015. Now, one of the leading candidates to replace him also has a California connection. Justice Leandra Kruger has served on the California Supreme Court since 2014. She also served as a law clerk on the Supreme Court for Justice John Paul Stevens. Another front-runner is Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. The 51-year-old successfully went through the nomination process last year, and President Biden elevated her to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. She was also a Supreme Court clerk for Justice Breyer in 1999 and 2000. Now, I spoke with Donna Crane, political science adjunct professor at San Jose State, about what the selection of a relatively younger female justice could mean for the court.
What we're talking about is shaping the court for the next generation. That's one important difference. The second important difference is that somebody with different life experience and different skills can persuade other justices on decisions. So we might actually see some decisions change because the conversations that happen in conference among the justices changes.
As we look live at Capitol Hill, the president, Senate Democrats expected to move quickly to fill Breyer's seat. Crane says it's a chance for each party to energize their base.
This actually sort of drops a big hand grenade into the politics of the midterms, and the shrapnel could go in a bunch of different directions. I do think it's going to turbocharge energy on both the Republican and Democratic side of activists. Activists understand what's at stake when you get a Supreme Court retirement.
Donna Crane also says this vote will ratchet up pressure on Senators Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema to, in her words, come back into the fold after being too independent for the Democrats' liking. Referring, of course, to the senators' votes last week against overturning the filibuster, essentially shutting down President Biden's voting rights legislation. And then just before Christmas, Manchin backed out of negotiations over Biden's big spending plan, stalling that indefinitely. Ryan?